you. So my name's Yselkla Farmer, and I'd like to say thank you to the India Smart Grid Forum for inviting me here to speak today. And yeah, I'm going to try and lead us into the next session. So I have a presentation picking up on some of the UK and European experience of smart metering, but also thinking about how that's leading us into some new regulatory frameworks for energy management and, importantly, markets for flexibility services across the system, and thinking about that in the context of what smart metering is incentivizing. So just a quick background. I'm only going to take up 10 minutes of your time with this presentation, but I hope it will help lead us into the next session. BEAMA, we're a trade association in the UK, so we represent technology manufacturers in the UK, and these cover the full sector from transmission distribution equipment, smart metering and electrical systems for the home. This is some of the members that we represent. I think these are the ones that I've picked that are most relevant to the smart grid sector. They range from large multinationals to European-wide companies, and there are quite a few UK startups in there as well. So quite a spread of different companies, but all working together on the smart grid agenda. So I'm not going to speak much about the UK smart meter rollout. I know last year we had some workshops on this around this particular event, but I think there's a few things that have been talked about in the previous session that I might be able to pick up on here. So in the UK, we have a license condition on all our energy suppliers. So it's a supplier-led rollout. We have a license condition for them to deliver an electricity and a smart electricity and gas meter to all customers in the UK by 2020. So that's 53 million smart electricity and gas meters by 2020. And this is following the European mandate that we had and the recommendations that have come from the Commission for this. Our rollout has started, and we are still set to finish by 2020. And there's been, I think I was quite interested in hearing the questions about the cost-benefit analysis for smart metering and how these vary across different countries. From a UK perspective, our motivations are there's quite a few benefits I think we see. One is an end to estimated billing, so utilities will have real-time data on consumers' consumption, so they're able to provide accurate billing to consumers. We're also able to provide smart prepayment. I think one of the key things that comes out of all of this is the benefit from providing real-time energy data direct to the consumer, but also to the network companies and utilities. We see significant carbon savings and cost savings, and there'll be a lot of cost savings from reduced supplier visits to properties. So we won't have to send somebody to a property to read the meter in order to accurately bill a customer anymore. We will be able to do this remotely from the data received from the meter. Overall, we see about £7 billion worth of net benefits to consumers, networks and energy suppliers from smart metering. And some of these benefits will also come from the in-home display that is being provided with the meter. So every consumer will be offered a physical in-home display in their property, so they're able to view in real time exactly what they're consuming per day, per week, per month, how much that costs. They're then able to set budgets on their in-home display, and for us this is quite an important factor of our rollout. So lots of benefits. I know for member states there are very similar ones, but I think on the question about what can India learn from the cost-benefit analysis that European member states have produced, I think they are quite unique to different countries. I think that's a fair point, and as the Commission said, we've all developed our own cost-benefit analysis for these meter rollouts. It's also worth mentioning we have a big marketing campaign off the back of our smart meter rollout. So we formed a new organisation called Smart Energy GB, who are actually producing the marketing for consumers on this. So we have national television are showing lots of advertisements with some cartoon characters called Gaz and Lecky, and it's all about getting Gaz and Lecky under control. So they're worth looking at. They're quite entertaining. Looking forward, beyond our smart meter rollout, I've been asked to think about what will this enable, how crucial is smart metering for flexibility markets. I think there's two kind of key elements and components of our smart meter rollout in the UK that we think will really help us do this. One is the in-home display. This is the first time consumers can visually see and understand their energy use, and this is going to be really important in engaging them. As we've already heard from the previous presentations, consumers are becoming prosumers. They will have their own generation assets. We want to get them engaged. We need to get them engaged in order to manage the energy system. The second is the consumer access device. So our specification for smart meter rollout allows something called a consumer access device to connect to the communications hub in the meter. This is a trusted device that enables data to be extracted from that meter in real time. So a consumer can actually extract that data and use it, whether that's putting it on an app and just visualizing it, or third parties with the permission of customers can then access that data and offer more services to consumers. So this consumer access device, or CAD, is pretty important to us. It might sit within a home energy management system. It might be a black box on a wall, or it might just be a chip within a washing machine, an EV charger, an electric vehicle charging station in a property. So that's quite important to us, and I think this isn't something that all member states have put into their initial rollout for smart metering, but we're making sure that this is certainly part of ours. So smart metering is pretty important. It's a big step, and I think it is the catalyst for change in the market, and certainly for engaging consumers. But it is one piece of the puzzle, and I think to deal with the change we expect from today to 2030, a lot more's got to happen. And this picture, I don't know if you'll be able to read it that clearly, but this picture I've taken out of a government report that was produced in the UK, looking at the future power system architecture. What will the architecture of our networks in the UK look like in 20 years' time? It's quite a hard thing to think about, but they got a lot of engineers in a room, and they started looking at the challenges we face. And just to summarise what this shows you, at the moment we have about 10 to 15 transmission-connected generation assets in the UK that provide frequency control. In 2030, we expect to have 600,000 generation assets. That includes storage connected to the transmission and distribution network. And 10% of these will be very small-scale generation assets at distribution level, maybe even around, in customers' homes. So that's quite a big change in how we might need to manage our system, and that's why we need lots of flexibility built in. Today, we have about 10,000 devices on the system that provide voltage regulation on our distribution network and provide automatic control. In 2030, we expect that to increase to about 900,000. Today, arguably, we don't really have any smart cities, but based on forecasts and trials currently going on in the UK, we expect to have about 60 plus there. And we have no integrated home management systems with a smart meter today, but assuming that half of the smart meters in 2020 will link to a home management system, we expect 15 million homes in the UK to have automatic control in their buildings, so the ability to automate their energy use based on data that's coming through their smart meter. And that's pretty important, and that's quite a crucial benefit from our smart meter rollout. So I think given that change, it's quite dramatic, and we do need flexibility in the system, and we're doing a lot more to look at grid-scale storage and how we implement that, managed EV charging, active network management, automation and control, and developing the communication systems that can also help us integrate all of this. So, only a couple more slides left, but this is moving us now into the next session, which is about regulation and the energy system more broadly, and new business models. So our government and regulator published a call for evidence in December, running through into January, looking at how do we develop a smart, flexible energy system in the UK, and what regulatory framework do we need. And this mirrored very nicely the clean energy for all consumers and the winter package that came out from the Commission, and follows quite clearly the market design package they've put together. I'm not going to be able to go through all of that, but I think I might just focus on energy storage as a good example of where we're moving our discussion forward. So the government have been asking us lots of questions on how do we reform connection agreements, developing flexible connection agreements for energy storage providers, how do we reform charging methodologies, licensing, what will the ownership of assets look like, because we assume that it won't just be the regulated entities and incumbent players we currently have in the market, like the network operators. We will have new third parties entering the market, being able to provide storage facilities and bid into balancing markets. And what regulatory approaches do we need? I think for us, we assume that network operators will want to own and operate storage, but they need to be able to prove within a robust regulatory framework that the procurement of that service isn't possible elsewhere, because we want to create a really competitive market for storage in the UK. Also, currently, under European legislation, storage is classed as a generation asset, but that doesn't necessarily fit with how we might want to apply storage in the future on the system. We have lots of different types of storage, chemical, electrical, mechanical, and these have lots of benefits. So we're asking ourselves the question, do we need to define storage as its own asset class within primary legislation? And that's quite difficult to do because it's so broad a technology, but it will help us open up licensing opportunities for new companies entering the market. A good example though, yes, we're looking at quite significant regulatory changes to allow storage to enter the market in the UK, but there's already good examples of where it's being deployed at scale. The best example, I think, is National Grid's Enhanced Frequency Response Tender in the UK that happened 18 months ago. So this is one of the world's largest single procurements of storage. I'm sure compared to the scale we could deploy it in India, this is actually quite small, but we're quite proud of it. So we've got 201 megawatts announced, which was announced back in August 2016. It amounts to a £66 million investment, and it includes 8 lithium-ion batteries, projects ranging from 10 to 49 megawatts. And these are going to be integrated with wind farms, natural gas power plants, and combined heat and power plants. Our requirements for this type of application for storage are set to grow. I think our previous reliance for frequency response was on slow reacting assets from traditional power plants, but storage is very competitive as it provides a very fast reacting service. So the department are also asking us about regulation for smart appliances and policies for implementing smart appliances for consumers, enabling them to connect to our smart metering system. I know there are a lot of questions about how we develop the right pricing methodologies for this market. We're also having a lot of discussions with our regulator Ofgem about how we introduce time of use tariffs for consumers so that we can actually create some value for these applications, and half-hourly settlement as well. There's a lot more. We responded to this call for evidence in a lot of detail. We have a document that's downloadable from our website, which provides our vision as an industry body for what this might look like. It's already been discussed, but hopefully the European Commission colleagues will be pleased to see I've got a slide on their clean energy package, but this is something that we do really support. I think it's a really good signal for changes in the market design framework going forward. So to conclude, I've got 3 points that I think have come up from the discussion earlier today and that we see as being really important in developing a market for flexibility. Smart meters, obviously a key enabler. The important thing is this provides data direct to the consumer, and it's the first step in engaging consumers in energy management. This is part of the solution, so we need capacity to build flexibility into the system if we're going to cope with this big transformation we're expecting to 2030, and we need to open the market up to new service providers. Who knows, Tesco's or Sky or mobile phone network providers. I expect soon they'll be providing all sorts of new energy services to consumers, and I think this is good, and it creates a competitive market and is good for consumers. And thirdly, any plans to do this, we need to develop the right pricing methodologies. We need to be able to pass value all the way through the system. So the utilities need to be able to justify their investments. They need to get value from it. And the consumer, importantly, needs to get value from it. So we need time of use tariffs for consumers to make this work. But I've tried to be as quick as I possibly can because I know you're time pressured. I hope that helps.